YouTube Q&A, let's get it. We're back on the YouTubes. Who doesn't love a good YouTube? I know I do. Yesterday on my IG story, I put up a question box asking you to give me some of your best questions. And instead of answering them on my stories like I normally do, I figured I would do it here on YouTube to provide a little bit more nuance, give slightly more in-depth answers to some questions. So let's just get on with it. All right, first question, Kara MC23 asks, how long should you stay in a calorie deficit? So when it comes to how long to basically be in a fat loss phase, it really just comes down to how much weight you have to lose. The better question is, how much weight are you gonna lose per week? Because then you just do the math on how long you need to be in a deficit for to lose body fat. I always recommend like a sustainable rate of fat loss is losing about 1% of your body weight per week. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you lose about 2 pounds a week on the higher end. And if you have, 40 pounds to lose, that would mean that you'd be in a calorie deficit for 20 weeks, and then you'd get down to 160, which would be your goal weight in this example, and there you'd go. So really just comes down to how much weight you're gonna lose per week. I'd say on average, a half a pound to 2 pounds a week, unless you're someone who has a lot of weight to lose, then maybe you'd lose 3 or 4 pounds a week. But you stay in a deficit for as long as you need to lose the amount of fat you wanna lose, and then you transition into your calorie maintenance. Next question from Modern Love Michelle. She asks, how does your one-on-one coaching work? So basically, there are 3 main components of my coaching program. There's the workouts, the nutrition, and the accountability. And one common misconception that people have about online coaching is they assume that we're doing like virtual personal training sessions together. That is something that exists out there. It's called virtual training. It's basically like virtual FaceTime personal training sessions. What I do is I create your program for you to take all the guesswork out of your workouts and nutrition. You follow it, and then I hold you accountable week to week via email. And by doing that, you're getting the support of being able to ask me questions on a weekly basis. I'm able to hold you accountable through things like I have a Google Sheets daily tracker that I have my clients fill out, which holds them accountable to hitting their calories, getting their steps in, getting their workouts done, but also through the weekly email check-in process. The benefit of that is by knowing that you have someone to check in with on a weekly basis, it holds you accountable to doing what you need to do, because it's kind of like a metaphorical gun to the head. It holds your feet to the fire like, hey, I got to get done what needs to get done this week because I want to have good things to my coach, good things to say to my coach come check-in time. So that's just a little brief rundown of my program, but I love what I do. Right now, all I offer is one-on-one online coaching. And if you're interested, I'll actually have the link in the description. If you're interested in applying, we can chat and see if you're a good fit for my program. All right, Mitva_97, I think that's right, says, how do you not let cravings get in the way? It's a great question. It's kind of the million-dollar question of fat loss. The first thing I will say is when you craft your diet in such a way where you're filling up on protein, fiber, fruits, veggies, very healthy, single ingredient, minimally processed foods, when you're filling up and you're getting a lot of nutrition in from your main meals, that like burning desire to go and grab the highly processed foods does go down. One of the reasons why a lot of people have these cravings is because that's the way you normally eat. You're eating a lot of highly processed foods. You're not getting enough nutrition in at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You're relying on snacks, a lot of packaged foods, fast food. So when you just switch your nutrition into a healthier way of eating where you look down at your plate and you have protein, you have carbs, you have vegetables, healthy fats, you're gonna feel more satiated, feel more satisfied, and you're not gonna give in to cravings as much. Another way of asking this question is, how do I have more willpower? That's essentially what you're asking when you say, how do you not let cravings affect you as much? People who are really successful with fitness don't necessarily have more willpower than you. They just basically have better habits than you. They have a better routine than you. Basically, they design their environment in such a way where they don't have to rely as much on willpower. They don't have to rely as much on asking questions like how to reduce cravings, because their nutrition is designed for them to feel satisfied from their main meals. And then so that's one perspective. And another perspective is by never going that long without eating foods you really enjoy, cravings aren't that high. Like for example, with me, because I make a concerted effort to include foods I really enjoy in smaller quantities more frequently, that like desire, that strong desire to eat them, to binge on them, dissipates. You know, I don't go weeks or months at a time without eating cookies or without eating chips, because if I did, inevitably when I get my hands on them, I would binge. That's a lot of these like health gurus who walk around grocery stores telling you that foods like this, like these are killing you. First of all, there's a lot of misinformation around that. But what they don't tell you is like, what, you're never gonna eat these foods the rest of your life? Well, that's BS. Obviously you are going to. So you're better off trying to find ways to incorporate them now so that when you do inevitably get your hands on them, you know how to handle it. You know how to include them in your calories. If you fully deprive yourself of them, you're not learning about how to incorporate them consistently. It's an important skill that you need to develop now so that you don't binge on them once you inevitably get your hands on them. All right. Demoy Max, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry, man. Since you are in amazing shape, what keeps you going to the gym? First of all, I appreciate that. What keeps me going to the gym is the fact that to stay in good shape, I have to keep going to the gym. The thing about fitness is to maintain what you've built, you have to keep doing the thing. This is the thing that sucks about fitness to an extent. It's also one of the reasons why when people try to rush the process, it literally makes no sense. Because if you snapped your fingers and immediately got the result today anyway, you still would have to maintain the habits to keep the result over the long term. That applies to nutrition and that applies to training. So what's the rush? Why are you trying to get results right away if you have to keep doing the work anyway for the rest of your life? So that's the most obvious answer, is like, I just have to keep doing it if I want to maintain what I've already built. The other answer is, it's become a part of my routine. I'm a better person when I work out consistently. I work harder, I'm more disciplined, my work ethic is better. I'm practicing the skill of doing something hard every single day. You have to practice that skill. We live in a world that's very comfortable. Food delivered to our house, comfortable homes to live in, cars to drive, Netflix at our fingertips. We live in a very instant gratification world. One thing I love about staying consistent with fitness is I'm forcing myself to do something hard every single day, which just makes me a better person. It makes me a better business owner. It makes me just work harder in life. And if I didn't remain consistent with fitness, I feel like my life would like spiral. So it's something that I need to remain consistent with just to maintain the discipline and work ethic that I've established. All right, Louis Tello 754 asks, how can I self-motivate to hit the gym again? You don't. Asking how you can self-motivate to hit the gym again is like asking, how do I get motivated to brush my teeth? How do I get motivated to go to work? How do I get motivated to cook a healthy dinner? You don't. You just do it because you know it's good for you. If you didn't show up to work, you'd get fired. If you didn't brush your teeth twice a day, they'd rot. If you didn't shower every single day, you'd be very smelly and gross. So the point I'm trying to make is there's certain things we have to do in life that are just hard, and this kind of goes back to the last question. There are certain things in life we have to do that are just hard, and you just have to accept that they're hard. Trying to make them like, how can I make this easier, right? How can I make this easier? How can I put myself in a position where, this is easier to implement? It's like, that's not the right mentality to have around this stuff, because it's just this thing that you're going to be searching for that's just never going to come. You're never going to want to go to the gym. It's never going to be desirable for you, but you still have to get it done anyway. And the way you do it is just like anything else in life. If you have a doctor's appointment, you schedule it in your calendar. If you have a meeting for work, you schedule it in your calendar. You got to do the same thing with your workouts. You don't only go when you're motivated, because then you're going to go, what, once a year or something like that? That's not going to be any good. So we got to be more consistent than that. And the way you do that is by Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 a.m., at 7 a.m., at 6 p.m., whatever the time is, that's when I go to the gym. And you make it this non-negotiable thing that's scheduled in. So you can never say, I don't have the time for it. Well, you have made time for it. It's in your calendar, right? You wouldn't not, if you made plans to meet a friend for coffee, you wouldn't not show up just because I don't feel like it in the moment. No, it's in your calendar. And also you're showing up for someone else. Imagine how disappointing and how rude it would be for you to just not show up because you don't feel like it. That's what you're doing with yourself. You're telling yourself you want to do something, and then you're not fulfilling on that promise. You're not keeping promises you make to yourself, which means you can't trust yourself. So if you want to build that trust, build that discipline, build that feeling like I know I can accomplish things, you've got to keep promises you make to yourself. Schedule things in your calendar, execute on them, get them done, and you're going to feel really good about yourself, and it's going to build habits that are going to get you to a point where maybe you don't even need to schedule things in anymore because it's going to be like you're on autopilot. Sarah Martin 230 asks, if you are over 50, is it important to balance hormones in order to lose weight? Yeah, ideally your hormones are going to be balanced, but this isn't the type of thing you speak about with a personal trainer. This is the kind of thing you speak about with a medical doctor, either your primary care physician or an endocrinologist. This is one of my current pet peeves on social media, is seeing a lot of fitness professionals talk a little bit more about hormones than they probably should, given their level of education, and they're probably just kind of talking out of their ass, to be honest with you. If someone's hormones are genuinely out of whack, that is something that needs to be taken care of and addressed by a medical professional, not a personal trainer, not a nutritionist, not a dietitian, a medical doctor who has gone to medical school, who is board certified. I think the reason I'm giving that kind of answer is because I just want you to be very mindful of who you're listening to on these kinds of topics. There's a lot of people who are just spewing a lot of information that they're not actually knowledgeable on. It's important to listen to people who have been trained and have studied this specific field. The first step is to go to your doctor and get blood work taken. Get your TSH levels checked. I have had clients in the past concerned about their hormone levels, and I say, okay, go to your doctor. Sure enough, one of two things happens. You go to your doctor, you get blood work taken. Either things come back 100% normal, in which case, great, we know that there's something else we need to address, your hormones are fine, or you get the blood work taken and your doctor says, you know what, your levels are actually out of whack. Then you get properly medicated for it, you get things dialed in, and then you know that essentially now we're getting into metabolism and stuff like that, but you're bringing your maintenance calories up to a more reasonable level through proper medication, and your problem is solved. But the only way to know how to address it and what camp you're in is by getting that blood work taken, not by just listening to some random schmuck online who's giving you their 2 cents on hormones. They don't know your body. They don't know what's going on inside. Only your doctor knows that, and you need to address this with them. All right, here's a somewhat controversial one. John Philip Mills asks, thoughts on all these new drugs for weight loss? Okay, so after doing quite a bit of research, not only on the drugs themselves, but also understanding who these are really for and understanding everything about that, I've come to the conclusion that for some people, these are really good and work very well, and for other people, not so much. It depends on the situation. So basically, to give you a quick rundown of what these are and what they do. So Ozempic being the most popular one, Mounjaro, these are ones that people know. Basically, they're called what are called GLP-1 agonists, which is GLP-1 is a hormone that gets released by your body when you eat, sending that signal that you're starting to get full. Unfortunately, some people just don't get enough of that naturally through their nutrition. This is why weight loss and physiology is different from person to person. Someone like me, I can eat a satiating meal, high in protein, high in fiber. You know, my body sends that signal that, hey, we're getting full, and it quiets the food noise, right? It makes it to where I don't need to eat for several hours. There are other people who that food noise, those thoughts of always being hungry and wanting more food, that never gets turned down. That dial can never get turned down no matter how much food they eat because of their neurochemistry. What these GLP-1 agonist drugs do is they basically give you that GLP-1 in an exogenous way. You inject it so that you can get the benefits of feeling full, so you end up eating less calories and it puts you in a calorie deficit. Again, everything always comes back to being in a calorie deficit. These drugs are just designed to make it easier to do so because they help you fill up more. For someone who is obese and needs to lose weight for their overall health, I think these drugs can work very well. And some people make the argument, well, how do you know if they don't have if they have side effects or not? Well, everything has pros and cons, but if someone is 100 pounds overweight, the benefits of losing the weight are gonna far outweigh any potential side effects from a drug like this. Because again, we know that being overweight has health complications in and of itself. On the other hand, if we're talking about a celebrity who has 5 pounds to lose and they're being lazy and it wouldn't take them that long to lose the weight and they don't have this issue of having all this food noise and they could lose weight without the drugs, then they probably should do that. The question is the juice worth the squeeze for you? It depends on the person. Again, for someone who has a lot of weight to lose, it might be worth it. For someone who barely has any weight to lose, they probably shouldn't take the drugs. It's a conversation you need to have with your physician, like I talked about earlier with the hormones, to help talk to your doctor about this to know if it's something that would be beneficial for you in your unique situation. The answer is it works well for some people, but not for others. All right, let's do 2 more questions. Next is from Lindsay Christensen, I believe. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing some of your names. Go-to for when you don't want to make food at home and want a good choice for fast food. From a calorie perspective and like a high protein, low calorie perspective, one of my favorite options is Chick-fil-A. What's great about Chick-fil-A as a restaurant, as a fast food option, is they have a lot of grilled chicken options. Like for example, the grilled nuggets are very low calorie, high protein. They have grilled chicken sandwiches. You can get grilled chicken salads, a lot of options. Whereas a lot of other fast food places, it's just harder to find as many options for grilled chicken stuff. You know, they have like a kale salad, I believe too. They have a fruit cup. There's a lot of options you can go with there to keep the calories very low, but keep the protein very high. So Chick-fil-A is a big one for me in that department. Chipotle is another really good one just because you can craft what's in your bowl. You can load up on fajita veggies. You can load up on lettuce. You can get, you know, double protein. You can keep the carbs lower by maybe getting like a half serving of rice. So there are ways to manipulate what goes into it to be able to help the meal, you know, fit your calories. All right, last question is more of a personal one, actually from my client, Justin McDuff. Shout out, Justin. Where do you want to be a year from now? Great question. And this is a tough one because I could go so many different routes with this, right? For the sake of not making this an hour-long video, I'm gonna go on the business side, like the coaching business side with this. For those of you who've been following me for a while, you know that recently I have grown a lot on social media. About, let's see, 2 or 3 months ago, I had like 25,000 followers on Instagram. As of today, I have like 134,000. I've grown a lot in just a matter of 8 to 12 weeks. And I'm extremely fortunate for what has happened. My business has grown a lot over the past couple of months. I'm not being dramatic when I say this. My life has quite literally changed over the past 2 months for the better. It makes me really happy. I've been putting a ton of time into social media for years now, and it's finally really starting to pay off, both from a social media growth perspective and also a business growth perspective. With that being said, as I've been growing a lot recently, one thing that's really important for me is to sustain what I've already built. Just like when I have a weight loss client that I'm helping, you know, achieve their fat loss goals, every pound that I help them lose is a pound I want them to be able to keep off forever. In my business, every client I gain may not stay with me forever, but the amount of clients I have, I want that level to be sustained, right? No one wants to make a decent amount of money only to have it taken away from them, you know, several months later or several years later. You want to maintain what you've already built. So for me, the remainder of this year and next year is a lot about continuing to grow my one-on-one client roster to the point where I have a full client roster. I'm not too far away from that. And then the other thing is just maintaining that and having that security of knowing this is something that I can maintain over the years. The other thing that I want in terms of where I want to be in a year is, you know, like I alluded to earlier, right now, the only coaching service that I offer is one-on-one online coaching. What I want to do within the next year, probably sometime in 2025, is build out a lower cost membership service. So, you know, one-on-one online coaching is not the most expensive thing in the world. It's much less expensive than in-person training. With that being said, not everyone can afford one-on-one coaching. And there's some people who, even if they can afford it, they may not want it. They may not feel like they need to work with someone one-on-one, but maybe they still want to support me, or they still want my programming, my nutrition advice. They want to be a part of a community that I have where maybe I do something like weekly live Q&As in a Facebook group. They'd want to be a part of something like that with something that's a fraction of the cost of one-on-one coaching. I want to create a service like that within the next year, especially as my audience continues to grow, and I can only scale my one-on-one coaching business so much. I can't just keep adding more and more one-on-one clients over time. There comes a point where you've reached your cap, and I'm getting to that point soon. So I want to be able to scale my business and have ways to grow revenue and reach more people and help more people. The way I'm going to have to do that is by building out something that's lower cost that more people, can have access to financially, and to where I can help more people. So keep your eyes peeled for that. For anyone who is interested in working with me, but maybe doesn't want to do one-on-one coaching, or maybe you can't afford one-on-one coaching, I am gonna most likely within the next year, some point next year, I'm gonna have a lower cost subscription service that is going to be really, really cool. Something I'm sure a lot of you are really gonna benefit from. And there you have it. I feel like this video is probably long enough as it is. I appreciate you watching. Thank you to all of you who asked some great questions. Definitely gonna do more Q&As in the future here on YouTube. But until I do that, I pretty much do them every single week on my Instagram story. So if you're not already following me, can't speak today, following me on Instagram at Dylan Holvey Fitness, make sure you do so. I post there daily, both on my feed and on my stories. Also, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel here so you can get notified when I post new videos in the future. If you have any questions for me, you can drop them down below in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.